Just over a year ago, on the 3rd of May, I released a video, basically an open discussion on the state of Siege and how it was being mistreated by Ubisoft. Since then, there's been a lot of changes and plenty to discuss, so I'm looking to revisit my original video and see how things have changed. I'd also like to reintroduce myself, as I'm still a small channel, and I want to let you know why I think I can be trusted to make these points. I'm Demon. I've been playing Siege on and off since 2016. I was a ranked 1.0 Diamond player, and outside of Siege, I've been involved in different stages of game development and QA testing, most recently with EA, but I've done a lot of stuff with Ubisoft as well. I wish I could talk further about it, but I don't want to risk violating any of my NDAs. My role on teams has always been a flex, which means I have to be comfortable playing any operator, and therefore, my strongest skill is my aim. Jack of all trades, master of none type deal. My first point in the original video was on consistency, so let's see how things have improved. One big piece of contention was server-side, client-side desync, and to Ubi's credit, I've had basically no issues with desync in the last month or so. The only day I had a problem is one where my ISP wasn't giving me the speeds that I pay for. I can't believe it. Only just started and Ubisoft have actually improved on something. Wow, not even 5 hours after writing that, and I'm getting a bunch of clips of what I can only hope is desync. And you know what? I'd be fine if it was just a slight desync with the kill cams. I could look past that. But I'm getting kicked out of matches for no reason. Oh, connection to server lost.
Nice.
Did you get that as well?
Nope. Just says you left the game.
I'm literally typing in chat and I get kicked out. It tells me to reconnect to unranked, but I can't. What I'm going to do, I'm going to leave squad. I can't leave squad. Oh, it's there. Leave squad. See if that gives me an option to... That's so fucking retarded. I have to leave the squad to be able to queue up to reconnect. Oh, Demon, your internet's just us. Isn't even valid, because this was the test I did when I got disconnected. It's not the best internet in the world, but it's consistent and more than enough for gaming. The hit registration actually feels great to me so far. I've hit some of the crispiest shots of my life recently. Unfortunately, I've felt something that I can't ever show to others. Sometimes, when spraying a gun, I feel the recoil pattern flip, so instead of pulling down and to the right, I have to pull down and to the left. And to be clear, I'm talking about consistent guns like the MP5 or the R4C, not in a situation like the SMG11 which starts consistent before going wildly different directions. Every time I spray without compensating for recoil, the gun follows the pattern it's meant to, but sometimes when trying to keep the spray as tight as I can, it inexplicably mirrors its pattern. Take this clip for example. I was just testing audio settings with the MP5 when I had a brief period of really bad recoil control. Not wanting that to happen in a live situation, I looked into how I can improve my control. Bear in mind that for the start of this clip, I had down left and down right mixed up. It's pretty obvious when I realised my mistake. I've been pulling down and left to control the recoil. Okay, that was bad. That one actually went right that time. That is down left. No, it's not. That's down right, sorry. I'm going this way to control. when the recoil says I should be going this way to control. Okay, now it's kicking over to the right. And then that one's straight down. After spraying uncontrolled into the wall, I can see I meant to pull down and to the left. But when I do that, it goes way too far left, because of the fact that as I'm controlling it, the muzzle is rising with a left bias. With this particular spray, I let my arm continue in the direction I was pulling, and you can see that it's not the correct direction. I hope that I've conveyed that coherently enough to you as a viewer, because I have no idea how I'd start a bug report on that. With something like controlling recoil, a lot of people will just dismiss my concerns with, oh, it's just a skill issue. And I want to be clear, I don't think I'm an amazing player. I'd say I'm mediocre at best, and I'm okay with that. I don't need people to think that I'm better than I am, because I'm comfortable where I am, and I accept that I have weaknesses. This recoil issue is something I noticed on the test server, and I'm definitely not the only person that's noticed a change to recoil.
Holy, is recoil different on that? What? Fucking shotgun. This guy was just there the entire time. He let his teammate die too. Shitter. You fucking shitter. John Guns, shitter.
Wow, I also feel like he should have heard that smoke pushing from 4 meters away. That's right, baby, segue into the next. It's a new system, it's very different to what we used to have, and it's going to take a lot of time for players to get used to it. But pretending that the new sound is perfect is just denial of the truth. The sound itself is confusing to work out where you're hearing something from, and that's not all. It's one thing to argue whether a sound is too muffled or not, it's a different thing entirely to blame someone else's hardware for the game not being audible enough. I won't go into the weeds, but my audio setup alone is around £300, and someone sprinting directly in front of me isn't even audible. I've had numerous experiences of getting shot, and my killer's gun didn't make a single sound, despite their lack of a suppressor. Capcan's behind me, even his shooting makes no sound, and he's only got a flash.
The diffuser is now 10 seconds remaining. We have been eliminated. Seconds remaining.
In all these clips, you can hear the sound of the bullets hitting me, but the people's guns aren't making the sounds they're supposed to. In this clip, other than a horrendous skill issue, you're going to experience a situation where sound dictated how I played.
Down to one friendly.
Yes, I screwed up my recoil, but I only pushed aiming where I did because the bandit, which was in front of me, sounded as though he was in control room. I'm not sure whether it will sound that way for viewers, as everyone's headset soundstage and audio drivers are going to be different, but to me, it sounds like he's standing directly next to the bomb chassis on A. Of course, that's not the only time I've been confused by shooting.
Protect the bomb.
How are these guys shooting? No, they've brought back the shooting bug.
Really?
Yeah.
That's horrible.
I've got full auto, I think F2, just blaring from like car garage kind of direction.
Oh, that's horrible.
Focus, yeah.
At least your entire screen is not dimming every time you run on
That
the
was so
light bulb.
weird. I thought they managed to fix that bug like 3 years ago. To be fair, from what I've heard, it has taken them roughly 3 years to get Siege X ready for a release, so that actually lines up pretty perfectly. I am using the sound settings that Ubisoft recommended to players. I've had to forego my own choice of settings in the hopes that it might make my experience better, and so far, for me, it's been nothing but a downgrade on a system people already mostly despised. The R6 Twitter account released a video from the audio director, and I want to dissect it. I'm trying to be fair, but there is a chance I unintentionally convey a different tone, so please don't think that I'm being a dick. I have no disrespect to Adam or any of the Siege team. I don't think he's particularly comfortable in front of a camera. I know I wouldn't be. I feel like an idiot just talking into a mic in an empty house. So I want to bring up that he does a good job, and some of what I say may just be down to him not being comfortable with the company shoving a camera in his face. Okay, let's jump into this.
Hi, I'm Adam, the audio director on Rainbow Six Siege. And first of all, I want to thank the community for checking out SiegeX and checking out the audio overhaul. A lot of people have been enjoying SiegeX and having a great time with it. But on the other hand, some of you in the community have been experiencing some frustrations as well. And we absolutely acknowledge that.
First of all, this sounds a bit like a bandwagon to me. A lot of people have enjoyed SiegeX, but some of you have frustrations. It just seems like it's downplaying the side of the community that's voiced their concerns. Whether intentional choice or not, that's how it comes across to me as someone that's had very clear, undoubtable problems with the new audio.
Audio has been a very core part of the experience of Rainbow Six Siege for many years now, and with SiegeX, we've tweaked that. We've made it a little bit different.
There's something about the way he says, tweaked that just sets something off in me. It's as if he knows how different it is, or that he knows the validity of the community's concerns, but that he's been given things he can and can't say. I'm not proposing that I can read the mind of a man I've never met, but what you say isn't always as important as the way you say it, intentionally or not. It's not just
Tweak
or
it a little bit different.
It's a very large difference that dictates how the game is played. I'm not against change, and I'm not advocating for a full-on TDM meta, because that would be antithetical to the core identity of Siege. But previously, you could play a more aggressive TDM style because you knew you could rely on the sound, whereas now a lot of people are dying or otherwise unable to make plays because they can't rely on one of the two senses they have in the game. I'll expand on it with another point, I just don't remember where in the video that is.
And with that comes an additional learning curve. And we understand that learning the new system may be challenging, it may be frustrating, but we're confident that with time, the benefits of the new system will become very apparent. We even noticed the same thing in our playtests, on our test servers, even amongst my fellow developers on the floor. At first, they were frustrated, had difficulties, but then, after some hours, began to really enjoy the experience and began to play Siege better because of it.
I want to ask two genuine, serious questions. Obviously, I don't expect a response from Ubisoft, being an unknown idiot, but it's things I want you as the viewer to consider. Firstly, did Ubisoft test the new audio in-house on different audio setups, using different styles of headsets, different DACs, non-industry setups, wired and wireless, earbuds, speakers, the whole 9 yards, and the other claim of played better? What exactly is better? Is it better than they played pre-change? Was it measured? Are there any metrics to better, or is it just that they felt they played better? In what way were they playing better? Because I know that with this new sound, as I can't hear people sprinting close to me, I'm droning a lot more than I used to in order to gain back that intel. And using a drone instead of just sound means I have information on enemy gadgets, room setups, so yeah, obviously if I drone more, I'm going to play better than when I drone less. Is that how it was in-house? Or was it genuinely that with the new audio system alone, they're playing better?
That said, with Year 10 Season 2.1, we are releasing some additional mix tweaks based on feedback that we received from the test server and feedback that we received from you, the community. The aim of these mix tweaks are to make footsteps and gunshots a little bit more clear, and again, to help you get the intel that you need to play the game better.
I honestly struggle to see how this isn't Ubisoft backhandedly admitting that the new sound is flawed or underdeveloped. They had a previous video explaining the new dynamic range change, and I'd like to remind you, it isn't even a change. It's just a renaming of night mode and hi-fi. Well, I guess it is a change because they removed stereo, but, you know, it's not a different system. I'd also like to say something about the whole night mode doesn't make footsteps louder argument. By reducing the dynamic range of the sound and increasing the volume of the game so that gunshots are the same level, the audio from the footsteps has indeed increased, while not being overshadowed by explosions or gunshots. It's like with exercise. Reducing your caloric intake isn't going to magically make you more physically fit if you don't do any level of exercise, but combining the two, you've taken action to bolster your health. Aiming down sights doesn't make your bullets magically hit, it just decreases the spread of your gun and highlights where your point of aim is.
Of course, if you are still experiencing bugs or frustrating situations that you can't explain, we're listening and we want to hear from you. The R6 Fix platform is a perfect place to submit these experiences and bugs to us. The audio team looks at this on a daily basis, and we take all of these reports very seriously. What would help us the most is that if you provide very clear video of the situation or the bug where you've been experiencing frustrations or where something strange is happening. That helps us track it down, it helps us reproduce it, and figure out exactly what is going on.
Oh, so like a video of me dying without my enemy's gun making a sound? Like my teammates dying without the enemy making a single gunshot?
Uh-oh.
I think that was from Roof.
Wait.
He didn't make a sound. Can you just turn your aimbot on, please?
What? These people are just dying. I have no audio, nothing.
Or the cluster charge that went off directly after, which made no sound, even though it should have been audible. Like me hearing someone rappel on my left when he's directly in front of me. I've got someone rappelling up to me now. He could be this window, I'm not sure.
What the fuck? This guy was literally repelling on objective little window thing.
The reason I heard the rappel on the left is because of positioning, but it highlights the issue of this directional sound. When Valk is shooting, I can determine her position on the map perfectly through 2 doors. Then I move a small amount and suddenly a source of sound coming from the right of my screen sounds like it's very hard left, because I get no audio in my right ear at all. So I wrongfully read the audio cue, ping where I thought I heard it, and as my teammates shoot, I can hear exactly where they are. I accept that I was wrong in my call, and it was due to bad positioning, but that doesn't mean that I'm wrong about the audio being to blame as well. The match before this one, I had a fuse on my floor, and I couldn't work out what he was fusing because I never heard a cluster charge being placed. I could barely hear the explosions. It sounded like he was fusing the garage wall to outside, not the floor above site. How about a match where I only pushed an enemy because I heard him prone, just to find out he never went lower than a crouch?
One friendly remaining.
I couldn't tell what I was hearing. I thought he was prone the entire time. I made a play based off the sounds I was hearing, only to die because the information the game was giving to me was not correct. I am going to move on in the hopes that I've made a clear, coherent argument for my position. Talking about consistency and having to forego settings, have you ever actually looked into the sensitivity settings for Siege? As an aimer, I'm extremely anal about my sensitivity. I want to play 1-to-1 sensitivity on anything below a 4x zoom, and I want it to be as close to my sensitivity as I can get. Like, if I play Counter-Strike, my sensitivity is designated down to the 5th decimal. That is down to 10,000ths of a value. In most shooters, I'm allowed to get the exact value I want, but in Siege, no matter how much I mess with my settings, I can only get close to even. This isn't an issue for most people, but it comes from Ubisoft deciding that players shouldn't use high sensitivities on their scopes, as it's disorienting. I'm sure that for some people it is, but for me it's more disorienting that I have to deal with 6 different sensitivities, some of which are way slower than I want them to be. If I want to have a comfortable sensitivity on Cali's sniper, not 1-to-1, just a comfortable sensitivity, I have to abandon any hope of my ACOG being close to a 1-to-1 ratio. The simple answer is to let people use decimal places in the config files and choose what they themselves find comfortable and what they find disorienting. I'm not even advocating for the freedom of 10,000ths of a value. Even just one single decimal place would satiate me. I do feel the need to address one thing from my original Siege video, the misrepresentation of subjectivity as objective fact. While I still believe, to this day, that original Clash was an unfair, bullshit operator, that obviously is just my opinion based on my lack of skill in combating her, as well as me not considering how the changes that were made while I was gone changed the interactions. However, for a lot of the community, they also shared in some of the opinions, and seemingly also something that Ubisoft agreed with, given that she's been remastered and no longer deals damage with her shield. For as much as they've introduced a hard-to-counter interaction with the new rework, it's more just an issue for people that keep peeking the person that's standing outside. She's a powerful defender when played with a competent team, but I'm glad they removed the ability for an operator to deal damage without exposing themselves. Shields used to be rather hard for people to fight against before the rework, so for someone that's played a total of about 2 weeks since the shield change, it's certainly been a learning curve. Yes, you can say skill issue once again, and you're not wrong, but I've seen a massive uptick in shields since coming back, and it's on a level where other people don't want to join me in the game because they hate going against shields. Believe it or not, from Ubisoft's own designer notes for Year 10 Season 2, Blackbeard was banned in almost 80% of the matches from Plat and above on PC. And PC is supposed to be the one where fighting a shield is easier. With a ban rate that high, and a presence of more than 20% of the matches, pretty much every time Blackbeard wasn't banned, he was played. I understand that looking at numbers alone isn't enough to make a point on, but just an 80% ban rate shows that there are perceived issues with the operator. To quote the same designer notes, "We're not releasing any substantial changes for Blackbeard this season, but we will update his shield with some quality of life changes. This decision is based on the shared data analysis and the fact that a new ban system is releasing this season. We want to see how his ban rate adapts to the new system before we take any action." I'll cover this later, but it fit in with the shield section, so I thought, why not add a trickle in now? While skill is a definite factor, so is the limb damage reduction that disproportionately affects defenders, as they're the ones that can fight up to 4 shields in a single round. Hitting a small object isn't the easiest thing, and neither is hitting a moving object. So, hitting the legs of a sprinting blitz in the few milliseconds you have before he blinds you, believe it or not, a hard thing to do. I went to the shooting range, tested my main defender's weapons, shot the target dummy in the foot, and it took an average of 10 shots to kill. As I don't really have a main for attack, I just tested several ops at random, and other than the R4C, all the attacker guns I tested killed in 5 shots to the foot. Now, of course the resolution is to just play off your teammates and pinch your shield from multiple angles, but that leads perfectly into my next point. Team composition since coming back has seemed really weird to me. Ever since I got into the game as a wee baby, Casual and unranked matchmaking has been hidden behind a casual MMR system, separate from the one that dictated your rank when playing rank. Back when third-party sites like R6 Tracker and TabStats could actually see your unranked MMR, I was in roughly the top 0.3 of players for casual MMR. I'm happy with that because it shows that I'm not as bad as I must seem. And I'm not looking to shit on players that have just bought the game, or somebody less dexterous or abled than myself. That was like 5 years ago though, and since 2022, I've played a grand total of about a month and a half. I've played 60 ranked matches since quitting competitive. That comes out to an average of 5 ranked matches per season. I don't feel I should be going against the best of the best, and my performance is agreeing with me. I've played against countless champ players, both from ranked 1.0 and ranked 2.0. I've been able to hold my own fairly well against people better than myself, and people way more comfortable with how the game plays, considering the time off that I've had. However, I've also had plenty of matches where I have a teammate that's only ever achieved silver, or somebody that quite literally only unlocked the ability to play unranked yesterday. The requirement to play unranked, or standard as it was called, is level 20, which feels that they shouldn't have a single chance of reaching the same level of MMR as myself and my friends. There's no skill decay, so a person quitting straight off of their prime that returns a year later is still expected to perform in their prime. That's actually the point I was trying to make in my original video, and during that match, both me and Daniel, the guy I was queued with, were unironically copper 4s. This was something like our third ranked match. We stopped playing Siege in the third quarter of 2022, and while we were gone there's been like 2 reworks to how the rank system works. We had to win casual matches to unlock rank. We start at the very lowest rank, and the only match we've been able to win, in heavy quotation marks, is a match where the enemy team surrendered first round because they were missing teammates. I lost count after 5 champion players, but how is there any way that coppers play against diamonds and champions? I just didn't explain my position properly. So, my rank now means nothing, as a worse player than myself can still get champ as long as they put in the time, and I can't expect unranked to be a fair fight when I'm either against pro players or a team that's never heard a single call out in the game. I've heard rumours that Siege introduced a engagement optimised matchmaking system, that if you have 3 or 4 wins in a row, it'll throw you into a match that you're statistically not going to win. I've not found proof of that, but if it is true, I question why I don't get that, or at least the opposite of that. That's not even to say that I actually do think there's EOMM, it's more to highlight that the community itself is confused and it's arguing with itself about how these matches are calculated. I figure this point is going to be contentious, so I want to explain what I mean by it. In a console-only lobby, using a mouse and keyboard is considered cheating, as it's using third-party hardware or software to gain an unfair advantage over the other players. So that means that Ubisoft sees a discrepancy in the mechanical skill of a controller player versus a mouse and keyboard player. So much so that console players have an option to disable crossplay. So why am I the arsehole for saying that I want an option to disable crossplay so I can have teammates on mouse and keyboard? This isn't some neo-classist PC master race console war bullshit, but when the console players say it's not fair, and the game developers imply it's unfair, I just want to address the fact that fairness goes both ways. There's absolutely controller players that are better than me, but there's also controller players that are worse than me. All I'm advocating for is the option for equal grounds for all players. Twitch's F2 is a gun that I'm not allowed to use because of the recoil, yet when I see someone else use it, and they have near perfect control of the weapon, I can't tell if that person is cheating using a macro, or if they've just got a controller. Wait, cheating? In the new season? As an absolute idiot said over a year ago, I know that overall, ranks in video games mean literally nothing, but having a hidden MMR system with a visible facade rank, no incentive to learn aim and recoil control, and the constant changes to the fundamental cores is just an invitation for 2 days, 7 matches, 2 hours, and 30 minutes of gameplay exactly, down to the very second. That's how much I got to play before I went against my first confirmed cheater of the season. Confirmed, as in detected and banned mid-match. That doesn't include people that I felt almost certain in determining that they were using recall cheats or macros. That is only counting the first explicit, undeniable cheater of the season. From what I understand, I managed to perfectly miss the moment of Modern Siege where there were basically no cheaters. So while I didn't get to experience that, it's at least worth making a note that Ubisoft actually did a good job and improved the experience. However, I've seen too many players using recall cheats to even try to guess an accurate number. Looking at it from a cheat maker's view, they know they've got a certain window where their cheats work and aren't banned, so they can drum up loads of sales before that particular cheat is banned, and they can work on new methods. If a player was banned as soon as they were detected cheating, it'd make the designing of cheats harder and much less lucrative, which could very well drive off some of the makers. It's common knowledge that banned cheaters tend to create or buy a new account to continue cheating, so if they were detected and acted upon quicker and harder, it'd make the financial prospect much less appealing, meaning less time impacting regular players and less monetary incentive to continue cheating. I fucking called it, man. You all said I was crazy. You told me I didn't know what I was talking about, and then, like 9 months later, BAM! Match cancellation. For real, I want to take a second to say this. There's a number of people that will hear criticism of any kind, or hear someone recommending an alternative to what's already being done, and they will instantly shut it down, a lot of the time not realizing they're even doing it. When I said about anti-cheat, while admittedly it didn't come from a personal experience on an anti-cheat team, I was still able to see times changing with the implementation of Valorant's, and later Counter-Strike's, cheater match cancellation, or Call of Duty's live player mitigations. When the giants of the industry were moving to a different system, a lot of viewers were still using the old anti-cheat rhetorics to avoid accountability. I'm certain that it started as a genuine factor, and to an extent is still a thing that they can't talk much about anti-cheat so as to avoid accidentally revealing something crucial, but I was called an idiot for understanding the shifting tides. Wasn't that the name of a season a couple years ago? Yeah, it was the one Callie came in. Neat. While there's still valid reasons to not discuss anti-cheat detection methods, you have to be careful that your argument isn't an appeal to tradition. I'm not saying I know best. Hell, I'm always saying I know basically nothing. The only thing I know is that I know nothing. But a broken clock is still right twice a day. Unless it's a digital clock, then it's probably never right. Cheating is actually as much a community issue as it is a Ubisoft issue, and that's not something I'd considered writing about last time. There's people that will say they're cheating because they deserve a higher rank, not realizing that if you couldn't even get out of your rank without cheats, you're not going to stand a chance several ranks or even divisions higher. Then there's so-called white knight cheaters that start cheating only when the enemy are cheating, that don't seem to understand that using cheats to target a cheater is still the act of cheating. It's not honourable, it's not going to get you any pussy, it's just going to make the match an even bigger waste of time. Any peculiarity with a kill cam, a player that's just way better than them, or somebody being lucky enough to pick up on a subtle sound cue is going to get called a cheater, so that they can justify toggling, because it's not about stopping the other cheater, it's about saving face and saving KD. Having said that, the number of rage cheaters I've experienced in recent times is way less than it used to be. I think I've had 5 fully blatant cheaters in these 2 weeks, compared to the 3 days it would take to encounter 5. Ubisoft have made a genuine improvement, and they deserve recognition for that. But there's still some things that Ubisoft can do that are pretty commonplace for other games. I have a script that when I press a button on my mouse, it will perform a single mouse movement left, so that I can calibrate my sensitivity across different games, without the need for websites that have old or incorrect values, or having to pull out a tape measure and make sure my sensitivity is correct. However, all I need to do is change a couple lines of code, and all of a sudden, I have no recoil on a gun. This is a system that COD games have mitigated for years. Most games I've played that use anti-cheat, actually I can't think of a competitive game other than Counter-Strike where it still works. But unfortunately, Siege is still lacking in this area. I also have concerns with Ubisoft's transparency in regards to their cheater metrics. They love to give us graphs like these, without giving any frame of reference. Other times they offer numbers, but let's take a look at their most recent chart. For June alone, BattlEye made up roughly 1/3 of all bans in that month. Yes, that is cherry-picked, and good job to the people that realised, but what that means is that what's supposed to be a front line against cheating isn't pulling its weight. I've been trying to keep what I say accurate and unbiased, so I want to bring up that I was wrong. That one wasn't the most recent, I just struggled to find the newer data. It's this one instead, where BattlEye made up not even 30% of the bans in March. That speaks somewhat to the improvements of the newer measures that I don't really know or understand, so I'm not comfortable talking on them. But it also shows that a lot of the job has to be dealt with by Ubi's anti-cheat team. Something lumped in with anti-cheat is player protection, or its other name of the anti-toxicity team. Speaking as somebody that misses the chaos of Modern Warfare 2 lobbies, I can understand the vision behind it, and there's certainly places where it's necessary, but I can see Ubisoft falling into the same issue that I hear the newer COD games have. Because of how often I was reported in Modern Warfare 22, I had a voice chat ban, despite never having a mic plugged in. Siege is the only game I plug a mic in for. While mic abuse is something that's pretty cringe, the fear of interacting with anyone, even a teammate, seems to be leading to people avoiding interacting with each other. When the text chat moderation was first released, I got pissed off because I called an enemy suspicious, and my message got flagged and rejected because the word suspicious had the word spick in it. That's an anti-Hispanic slur that hasn't been used in 50 years. Take a look at this one from the other day. How is that offensive?
Waifu, racist. You make me sick to my stomach saying this racist shit all the time, honestly. Can't believe you haven't been banned yet. But fuck isn't offensive, come on.
Protect the bombs. Bomb location compromised. Plan accordingly. Down to 10 seconds.
Making players fear casual conversation is, as I see it, the exact same way that COD's situation started, and now a lot of COD channels have had to move to other games as they can't get the reactions from a community that's either unfairly chat banned or scared that if they say anything, they'll join their now silent brethren. I wrote a message that got instantly removed for being offensive, for using the term chicks with dicks. I've asked a bunch of people from different ethnicities, upbringings, and identities, and the only thing I've heard is that chicks is a gross term because it feels like alpha male manosphere type shit. Out of 3 trans girls, none of them had an issue with the idea of women with dicks as a term. It's not really rude, and it's kind of accepting that regardless of which attachment they've got in their pants, they're still being called female. Yeah, there's going to be people offended by the term, but there's going to be people offended by the word cracker. They're going to be offended by female or boomer or even being called goofy. Doesn't mean we have to get rid of those terms. Take a look at when the US was going to ban TikTok. A bunch of American users were complaining that it's a denial of their freedom of speech on an app where they have to use terms like unalive and self-delete. Large numbers of the LGBT community call themselves faggot proudly. If somebody calls me one, I don't cry, I don't moan, I laugh that they're so pressed over a video game that they have to try and insult me. Regardless of my thoughts or the points I've made, I'm not arguing in favour of letting people spam the N-word endlessly without repercussion, but do we really need an outright ban on words and phrases that imply no offence? Do we need to overly sanitize the environment of an 18+ game in a world where we can just mute and block someone and move on? Is the chat moderation really for the benefit of the community, or is it just something to show investors in the hope they'll put $1.25 billion into your company because you've lost touch with your fanbase? Seriously, it would be a crime if I were to sell a physical copy of the game to a minor. It's essentially the same thing as selling them knives or other weapons in the eyes of the law. There's an age rating that indicates how old you have to be to buy the game, which tells you how appropriate the game is. There's disclaimers that tell you how offensive it might be. If a consenting adult can't call another consenting adult a dumbass without being punished for it, but the characters in the game can say worse things than the player can, you've fucked up. If I call someone a fucking muppet and a tosser, I'm liable to be sanctioned. Yet this annoying bitch on the main screen can scream it time and time again because, oh, it's just a sentence, it's just a voice line, it's just a character in a video game. I have less rights than a fucking virtual character in an overly sanitized Ubisoft title. The argument that Ubisoft is a private entity and doesn't have to allow all forms of speech on their platform does not hold any water, because they're holding you to a higher standards than themselves. The fact that the one rude, loud, offensive British character is a black woman that looks and sounds like she'd live in a council house just outside London is as funny as it is offensive. For any non-British viewers, you can just watch the film Attack the Block with John Boyega to see the racial stereotype Clash was designed around. Back to the game itself though, a game where communication is crucial. It's a much bigger concern than a game people play mostly casually, and while the communication will mitigate some of that impact, you still need line of sight to whatever you're pinging. It isn't a replacement for comms in high elo matches. The anti-toxicity systems are so overtuned that I've got negative reputation from a match where a squad mate accidentally shot a 20 HP teammate in round 1. Then later in that match, on round 6, threw a smoke canister which another teammate ran through while on 10 HP. Because somebody in my squad was unlucky enough to get 2 accidental team kills in one match, both myself and another person I was queued with were punished. Add that negative reputation to the amount of harmless sentences and phrases I've said that have been erroneously flagged, I'm already almost a third of the way to my first sanction, and I've only been talking in chat for a week. For a long time, Siege had been running on the DX11 API, with an option to use Vulkan instead for systems that needed it. Since then, they've removed both of these and forced the community to rely on DX12, an overall improvement and a necessary change for the lighting and better multi-threaded support. However, it's not been as smooth as anyone on either side of the issue would like. It took one of my squad mates a literal month to fix horrendous, unplayable performance, when Vulkan would have not only afforded him better performance than DX12, it would have been better for his setup as a whole. Now, in the newest season of Siege, I'm experiencing terrible stutters and freezing, as well as other issues that I feel but can't confirm. But Daniel, you know what?
Not really.
Well, my crew is big, and it keeps getting bigger. It's because Jesus Christ, it's my... Oh my god, my game almost crashed. I think Ubisoft are listening to me. I'm not going to brag about my system, but other than a compromise on the CPU to round it out and make it better for more than just gaming, I have one of the best systems I could have. I'm running 64 gigs of DDR5. I have my game running on a gaming dedicated NVMe that is separate from my C drive, so I have nothing other than my game and my recordings taking up bandwidth. I've had random teammates that have had to abandon matches because their performance isn't playable anymore, and that's like lighting someone on fire after the sound changes have already shot them in the gut. The new lighting, updated visuals, and other improvements are going to impact performance, and I don't even mind losing like 70 FPS from my pre-update performance for those, but I need a game to be stable and consistent. Speaking of new lighting, a clip from a friend.
What is wrong with this game, goddammit?
What's wrong with this team?
Yeah, there you
I
go.
don't even know who I killed.
I got Ash. I've been targeted by Deimos?
Yeah.
Op 4, last operator standing.
Was it beeper on the white?
That was my beaker I killed. him. I'm holding main stairs. It's Twitch, so he could be droning.
My game is bugged.
I think that's from the changes they made to exposure. So the outside seems way brighter and harder to see out of the building compared to seeing in. Every time he moves under or away from a light source, he erroneously has his brightness adjusted in a way that deeply impacts his ability to play. But thinking on that entire mechanic, the one for going outside, not whatever issue he was experiencing, purely subjectively, so nobody thinks I'm trying to make an objective statement, I feel that Ubisoft have gone too strong in sections, making it so bright that it's sometimes impossible to see outside, or to see an enemy on a window. I've taken 3 screenshots here, one with the anti-aliasing I use, one with TAA 1x, and one with TAA 4x. And I can't really make out the snowmobile outside the breach on any of them. If there were an enemy using it as cover, especially in Iana, I wouldn't have any chance of fighting them. And that's like the main area fights occur for the basement objective. That's a massive impact for the lower ranks of the game. Maybe I should have put this segment in the consistency area, but I don't know. To me, it feels like there's an aim acceleration or smoothing or something being applied to my mouse. To be clear, I'm not talking about a feeling of something wrong causing me to lose gunfights. I'm talking about trying to accurately aim on a static area like a door frame, and having trouble getting my point of aim where I'm intending to put it in a situation that requires no urgency. It's not nerves, it's not adrenaline, it's not a skill issue, it's something that feels consistent with the actual act of aiming and putting a crosshair on a specific area. I think it goes hand in hand with the feeling that recoil is different. I'm now struggling to use the gun that I use most in the entire game on a level that's more than just me being bad. I'm overcompensating for recoil on the SMG-11 when I could hit groupings that frankly look like I was cheating. But there's no way for me to convey that to an audience where they can unequivocally say, yeah, that seems to be the case, instead of, you're just old and washed. I'll stay silent for this clip, then talk you through it. The drone that I heard in my left ear is the one directly in front of me, as it turns to face me without any indicator lights on. I look around frantically, because it sounded as though it were right on top of me, at which point I hear a proximity alarm to my right, through the door to bunk. I'm taking aim towards Cafe, because that's where I figure they must be pushing, and in jumps Thermite on top arcade. The bigger issue I have is that I'm the one that placed that proximity alarm, and as I knew there was an alarm on top of arcade, and what I heard didn't sound like top of arcade, I played in a way that got me killed. Maybe I shouldn't have played so out in the open, but I couldn't rotate through bunk, as that's where I heard the proximity alarm, and I didn't hear the window closest to me getting violated by my soon-to-be killer. These aren't clips cherry-picked from day one. Almost all of them are after the sound changes on the 12th or the 13th. I'm going to move on in the hopes that I've made a clear, coherent argument for my position. Unfortunately, I don't have the perspective of my teammate, as none of my friends record, but this situation here is a great one to talk about.
Oh, there's a guy hard breaching on objective. Sledges in through the window. You see him, you see him, you see him. What the fuck?
I very much can't see him when the teammate spectating me can. The bullets from the ram come flying from behind the corner, and I'm left confused as to what I'm supposed to have been seeing. It's hard for someone with a lot of experience in something to see issues that a newcomer will experience, but it's important to speak for the new players too, because they're the only chance for Siege to get back to its prime. Siege isn't free to play out of the kindness of the Guillemot family's hearts. If that were the case, then the cost of buying the full game to get access to Ranked wouldn't have increased. The game and its communities are currently in a death throw. I got a lovely random email from Ubisoft discussing my stats for Year 10 Season 1, in which it kindly told me I was in the top 13.7% of players in Great Britain for matches played. The same email that told me I had 45 matches played. Now, admittedly I'm terrible at maths, but using all the data available to me, I make the average matches played to be around 17. I'm not confident in my own skills, so I've asked a friend, and he says that I'm dumb and should kill myself immediately. Regardless, that makes it 1 match every 5 days, or 6 matches a month. I'm playing the same 15 people, day in, day out, ever since the season started, going no more than 2 days without seeing a person again. And I'd like to remind you, I'm not a great player. There should be plenty of people in my MMR bracket. When the season started, in just our first 3 matches, there were 10-year veterans, diamond players, complaining about how you can't hear anything, vowing that they're finally done with Siege and that they're leaving. 7 people from different teams and different matches voicing how they're not being given audio cues over those 3 matches played. In just 2 matches, we had 5 surrender votes, because people didn't want to be there anymore. This is from people that understand the core fundamentals. I can't even begin to imagine how confusing the game is to a newcomer thanks to the new audio. Sure, they need to learn to understand the sound, as we all do, but having such heinous problems makes it way harder for someone to get in at the ground floor. The new ban system is nice in theory, but so are most political ideologies. Ubi won't act on a clear sign of hatred or concerning levels of operator playtime because they want to see the metrics from this new system. Well, the top 3 operators I've seen banned the most are Blackbeard, followed by Monty, and then Blitz. Even if the shield operators weren't a factor, the concern I have is that for most people, target banning the operator that got the most kills last round is a higher priority than voting to make your side's round easier. I had a match where I played Tubarão against a Maverick player. Well, it turns out that for whatever reason, Tubarão doesn't slow down Maverick's torch anymore. So when I got 2 kills that round, they pointlessly banned an operator that couldn't counter their main tactic. I played terribly, my utility wasn't helpful, and yet it was still banned just because Tubarão had the most kills that round. All I could do was laugh. I can't speak for anyone else, but this season, I just feel like I'm playing so much worse than I was before. Either the teams are stacked so unfairly against me that I don't stand a chance, or I'm just making a million mistakes I haven't made before. I wholeheartedly accept I am making mistakes, but I don't feel I'm making enough to feel like a completely different person. The weird thing is, my stats don't even agree with me. I thought I was going steady with a 0.4 KD, and I'm honestly surprised to find out it's higher than 1. It could be placebo, maybe I think I'm going to do worse, so my mental's affected to the point that I do actually do worse, but as I can't make arguments for either side, I have to leave it as an ambiguous point.
I didn't even know he did that to damage. Oh my god, you evaporated him! It fucking disappeared. What?
Let's take a look at Yubi's ideas for balancing an operator. Quoting the Year 10 Season 1 designer notes, when we see operators with very high presence, we see a reduction on variety. Playing and facing the same operators repeatedly can be boring and feel repetitive. Their ideal presence is around 13%, even though we don't aim strictly for this. If every operator were in their sweet spot data-wise, it would mean that everyone is viable in all situations, making operator selection feel meaningless. For the first point, I feel Yubi are so close to understanding the issue. Looking at basically any post Yubi make, we can see that the highest picked up, season after season, is Ash. Is that Ash with an R4C, or Ash with a G36, M45, or 5.7? I'm sure these actually are stats that the team track, so let's see why people flock to her. Well, first of all is the rage cheaters. It doesn't really matter what gun they choose, so they just want a 3-speed with a horizontal grip and a good DPS. Originally, Ash was one of the only operators that wasn't allowed an ACOG because of her presence in matches. But how does that make her gun any less lethal? When you're rushing, like most Ash players do, you could do the same thing with her iron sights. She's had her recoil reworked several times, but that doesn't address the lethality of the R4C. That just makes it more annoying to play the gun. She's had her magazine capacity reduced from 30+1 to 25+1, but that doesn't change the stats of the gun. If you look at the stats, there's 5 operators capable of a higher DPS than Ash. Only one of those has unbearable recoil. The Bearing 9 has higher DPS than any assault rifle, LMG, or SMG. The AK-12 has recoil so great, I thought I was having some kind of recoil bug, because surely there's no way a gun with 30 bullets on an operator that's picked like half the time, with almost the exact same fire rate and even more damage, would be that amazing. Well, let's compare gun loadout. For Ash, obviously I want to be able to control the gun, so I'm running a vertical foregrip, a flash hider, a laser because I want to be able to ADS quicker, and my sight doesn't really matter, but right now it's an ACOG. Compare that to Ace, where I'm running a vertical foregrip, a flash hider, a laser because I want to ADS quicker, and sight doesn't matter. I could play an angled grip, but why would I, when I'd have to sacrifice a large deal of recoil control when I already have the option to swap to my secondary or to just stand behind a wall when I reload? Why would I change to something that makes my guns less consistent in a game where one missed bullet could be the difference between winning the round and losing it, when the alternatives are to reload negligibly faster or to move at a 5% increase? How can we justify trading the reliability of a weapon for something that's almost pointless? The only guns I run angled grips on are DMRs and guns that have such little recoil that a vertical grip would make me pull down way too much and miss my shots. As for muzzles, very rarely do I swap off of the good old flash hider. I do for the AKM because it's one of those no recoil weapons, and I play the P90 with a compensator just because I found having the flash on Solace made me pull down too much, or too little depending which of her weapons I used. My weapon balancing choices for Solace weren't dictated by whether I'd rather have tighter but more varied groups or less tight but more consistent groupings. They were just, I'm an idiot, and if I have little recoil on this gun, I don't pull down enough on this other gun. I don't know a single person that plays anything other than vertical flash, but I'm not sure that Yubi can see that or to accept it. And the point that if every operator were in their sweet spot data-wise, it would mean everyone is viable in all situations, making operator selection feel meaningless, I disagree. There's still ways to play an operator that change the dynamic of the map. As much as I love her, Solace is a pretty useless operator. I mean, she has a use, but it's very rarely important. But I'm still playing her all the time, because I like her. If I played a statistically better and a operator with a higher win rate, I'd be helping my team more, but then I'd be compromising which operator I want to play for something to help the team. Yes, that is part of the game. Yes, I am kind of a dick because I'd rather play Solace than help the team. But if Solace were better, then I wouldn't be as much of a dick, because I'd be playing an operator that can still hold their own, that can help the team. If I want to play Solace 24/7, which obviously I don't, but if I did want to, but I could play her like once a week, because every other time I'd have to play a bandit or a mute or a doc or a rook, I'm going to enjoy the game less, because I'm forced to compromise on the operators I want to play because they're not viable. With the new pick and ban system, an enemy operator that was viable the round before could be getting banned, in which case there's no reason for me to take someone that can counter them if they've already been banned. So then I have to preempt, okay, say Ace was really good, Ace has been banned. I now have to preempt, okay, are they going to take Habana? Do I need to make sure I've got a lot of denial on the walls? Do I need to take Cade? Do I need to take Bandit and cover multiple walls? Or are they going to take Thermite? Can I take someone with an impact trick? Without being able to know, say I take Bandit and then they get the hatches. My choice has been useless, and I'm having less fun because I'm forced onto this operator that's now useless. I understand the point that if everything's good, nothing's good, and as much as I don't agree that operator selection would be meaningless, I still see the point that's being made. But if everything were viable, I could enjoy something useless. Instead of taking Oryx with the T5, I could run around with a Spaz 12 and the USP 40. I could just have fun messing about, but I mean, he's got his dash, so you don't need the shotgun for sight remodeling. He's got the bailiff, so you can rely on your primary for fighting anyway. There is no reason for him to have a primary shotgun. He's got a pocket shotgun. He doesn't have to sacrifice his health. Even if he didn't have a pocket shotgun, he can run straight through the wall. He doesn't need a primary shotgun. But if that primary shotgun were a viable choice, and if the USP 40 were a better weapon, I could play something I would rather play. I could play the 590 on Warden, but the SMG-12's recoil is very hard to control. I could choose the P10C, but why would I choose something semi-automatic that's very limited capacity when I can have 3 times the bullets and fully automatic, integrally suppressed, so it doesn't matter if I choose between a muzzle brake or a suppressor. Something that has the second highest DPS in the game, by the way. Making everything viable doesn't necessarily mean that nothing's unique. I could play a primary shotgun. I really want to play Ace or Thermite with an M1014, but I can't because the shotgun's useless. There's no point for them to have soft breach. I think Ace actually has breaching charges anyway, which means he doesn't need a shotgun at all. And I'm not going to rely on a Musoc or on a 5.7 when I can just have a 5.56 with an ACOG or a hollow. I can have a clear sight picture, full automatic, and very controllable. I'm personally not sure that Ubisoft understand the dynamic of what makes a weapon unique or what makes a weapon fun to play. The R4C is a decent gun. I'm not saying it's the best, I'm not saying it's the worst, but it's not fun to play. The recoil is the most random. The SMG-11, it starts off one of the most consistent guns in the game, and then it forks off. For I'd say about 90% of the player base, the SMG-12 is a gun to just pull down, hope you get lucky. Hope you get a lucky headshot, hope that the person had basically no health and the few bullets you've actually been able to land on your target are going to kill. You can't argue skill issue when most of the community can't use the weapon. But what's the alternative? The alternative is the C75. Dogshit iron sights, you can't see anything. If I can't see what I'm shooting, I'm going to take something with more ammo, with a higher fire rate, with a better DPS, that I'm likely... Like, I can just move closer to them. I can't just see more around the C75. Give us a reason to change up our setups. Give us a reason to play something else. Make operators more viable so we have a reason to move off of the operators that are already dominating. When's the last time you saw someone main Glaz or main Tachanka? When's the last time that you had a round where nobody could get into sight, nobody could push the building, your team couldn't do anything purely because the operator that the person was using was a Solace? There's operators that have their strengths and operators that have their weaknesses, but the weak operators need something. I could have released this video on day 2 of this season, tried to cash in on the hatred of the sound system, or the hype of C-checks, but I didn't, because one, that would be disingenuous. I want to give Ubisoft the fairest chance. But there's no point holding back and seeing, oh, maybe this gets improved, maybe they fix this. Or, on the other hand, maybe this bug happens, maybe I get another example of that. I've held off, and I've updated, I've kept it as up-to-date, as accurate as I can. This gives Ubisoft the fairest chance, and it's not just me trying to cash in on hype. I don't get paid for this. I do it because I literally have nothing else to do. Doing this is stopping me from working on another project, and a project that I'd rather get out as soon as I can. But while it's still young, I want to nip it in the bud. I want to address everything that I've said in the hopes that we can get someone, come in, look at it, and just like, bam, yes, this is what changes we need. I haven't said what they need to do. I've said how they need to approach it and how they need to look at it. I'm not saying that I know everything and they know nothing. I'm saying that there is a perspective that it seems like they're missing. There's, frankly, a lot that they seem to be missing. There's this section of the community that just seems unheard. I don't expect everybody to agree with every point I've made, but I wanted to open another discussion. I wanted to put into words the concerns that not just myself, but the community have, the grievances that the community have with what we currently have. Through this, we can objectively look at changes, we can look at situations, and we can see, actually, yes, a 20-something% pick rate on an operator that's banned 80% of the time is a concerning metric. We can say that, yes, an operator that's able to kill people without making themselves vulnerable to damage of any kind is a concern. We can look at the balance changes that they've made and see that, yeah, removing a sight doesn't change the DPS. Making the mag smaller, making the bullets harder to hit, doesn't address the stats for when you do hit the bullets. Thank you for listening. I think I went a bit unhinged at the end because it's, I don't know, it's 4 AM. I've gone crazy. I've gone off my script. Probably gone off my meds at this point. I don't know. Thank you for listening, and please try to get your own voice heard. Try to get your grievances, your opinions, your ideas out there. I'm not talking about like commenting on this video. I just mean anywhere. Make your own videos, put your issues on R6Fix, whatever it is, to be more vocal about what you do and don't like.